we received this stunning interview at long last. Jeffrey Grunlach, the billionaire founder of Doubleline Capital, sat down with Yahoo News and offered some startling predictions about the country's and economy's future. The interview is about 30 minutes long, but in today's video, we will simply focus on a couple of key clips of Jeffrey's incredible predictions. But first, if this is your first visit to our Smart Stocks Academy channel, please accept my warmest greetings. Hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell next to it to be the first to know when a new video like this is produced. So if you're ready, let's go to the video as soon as possible. The primary issue on everyone's mind is one thing. Where is all of this going, and will the country face a Great Depression? Before you accuse me of clickbaiting, consider this. The king of bonds, a billionaire investor, and one of finance's most well-known figures, has declared the unthinkable. America is on its way to a dark place. Let's have a look on what's on offer.
I almost feel like there's no turning back on some of these things. I feel like the Taiwan-Chinese situation is getting near an end game. I think the U.S. dollar reserve currency situation is getting more near an end game. And that's really going to be the game changer. When I say the next bailout is going to be the one that maybe breaks the camel's back, I think it'll take the dollar down. So it's in the next recession, I think, that we're going to see dollar weakness. And the dollar is very, very overvalued versus our twin deficits. One of my most trusted indicators is the direction of the dollar broadly versus the twin deficits as a percentage of GDP. There's a long lead time, it's a long-term thing. It doesn't work for a year. It's something that has like an 8-year cycle.
Okay, that may not have seemed alarming to the average person. But what Jeffrey just said there is that the dollar will be done in the next recession when bailouts occur again, exactly as they did in 2007. If you didn't know, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. Without going into specifics, this means that the United States and its residents have a number of economic advantages that other countries can only dream about. When a country loses its status as the world's reserve currency, it is the final nail in the coffin, signaling the end of an empire. For the dollar, the steady depreciation has already begun. In order to comprehend this, you must first comprehend the link between interest rates and inflation. This relationship has deteriorated in our country, putting our powerful dollar at risk. When circumstances are rough, the Fed reduces interest rates to stimulate the economy. It is their responsibility to maintain this delicate balance. Too low a rate, and the economy will overheat. Too high a rate, and the economy will enter a recession. So how does all of this connect to the dollar's depreciation? Well, the story begins in the 1980s, when the United States was experiencing a severe inflation crisis. Paul Volcker and Ronald Reagan remedied the problem by hiking interest rates, specifically to an absurd 18%. This imposed a huge hardship on businesses, but it solved the problem with the US dollar's depreciation. When the Federal Reserve noticed that inflation was vanishing, they began to lower these rates. The rate declined and fell with each successive year of improvement, until it reached 6% in the mid-80s. The Fed opted to raise rates once more at this point, providing them more leeway in the future if things go bad and if they needed to decrease rates to boost economic growth. However, keep in mind back then that boosting the rate to allow additional breathing room was done at 6%, which was a low level at that time. They did this till 1989 or thereabouts, and the rate reached 10% that year, and the economy began to stutter. The United States was immediately thrown into a recession. To correct this, the Fed lowered the rate, just like it would in any other recession, and the economy returned to normal. However, the process of decreasing interest rates and then raising them once the economy recovered showed a major fault in our system. Each time the Fed finished this procedure, the upper limit on how high interest rates could be raised before the economy sputtered became lower and lower. By the time 2018 rolled around, we'd seen that the economy had given up and the stock market had crashed. despite the Fed raising the rate to just 1.8%. This is why we have 0% interest, and why the federal government can't afford to raise the rate even a tiny bit. Even when they only indicated that they plan to raise the rate to 0.75% this year, the entire market took a significant loss earlier this week. This is also why many experts believe that the Fed is stuck. It can't raise rates without causing a severe recession. Yet, it can't let inflation destroy the dollar by doing nothing. While the official inflation report shows a 6.8% decline in the currency, the real number perceived by citizens is almost certainly far higher, because the government has manipulated the numbers for years to their benefit. This isn't some sort of a hoax. It is a fact that even the most eminent hedge fund managers acknowledge. Listen to Jeffrey describe this major issue that is tearing society apart.
And inflation is going to continue to go up, at least in the next couple of months.
Where do you see inflation this year?
CPI. Okay. We have to look at different measures of CPI. CPI is at 6.8 right now, year over year. The one that's rolling off for last December is 0.2. So the way things are going, it seems pretty likely that we're going to get a 7 handle on the CPI soon. But the CPI, of course, is a strange construct. It's not calculated the same way as European CPI. If you use the European CPI methodology, our CPI right now would be at 7.8. So it's calculated a little bit differently. Also, there's this strange thing about shelter that's almost a third of our CPI. And shelter includes largely something called owner's equivalent rent. And owner's equivalent rent is not a real thing. It's not like you're going out there and measuring rents. What you're doing is asking people that don't rent out their house, if you did rent out your house, what do you think you'd rent it out for versus last year? As if a regular homeowner that doesn't rent out their house has any idea. I probably couldn't estimate what I could rent my property out for within 20%. I have no idea. I've never looked at it.
So that is your biggest issue with everything. We calculate inflation by relying on government sources for information. Most people are unconcerned about inflation. But when it becomes severe enough that people's income is being increasingly worthless, they become enraged. Assume you are a skilled inspector in the Midwest earning $25 per hour. When the Taco Bell employee down the street is offered $18, your head starts to boil, and your basic human instinct of envy, justice, and greed kicks in. When you include the fact that your rent is rising and the cost of food is rising, you have a prescription for disaster. Slowly, your wage buys you less and less, while the government claims that housing prices are only up by 3%, an impossible claim considering that rents are up by 14% in December of 2021, the highest increase in over 2 years, according to most other sources. And when it comes to the collapse of their currency, the government has made numerous attempts throughout history to minimize the reality on the ground. Anyone who suggested that the United States would experience hyperinflation 2 years ago was immediately dubbed a conspiracy theorist. With each passing day, we can observe that Michael Burry's tweets are becoming more and more accurate. The government can say anything it wants about the cost of products, but it won't stop individuals from seeing their wages dwindle at an unprecedented rate. If you understand inflation psychology, you will realize that it is a harmful mindset that causes people to spend more quickly than they would otherwise because they think prices are going up. The psychology took far longer to develop among the general public in the past, but with the advent of social media, cell phones, and a 24-hour news cycle, many experts believe that it will move much faster in the 21st century. In essence, they believe that in the age of social media, hyperinflation is much easier to achieve. Whatever the case may be, we can readily infer that Jeffrey's remarks are highly worrying. It is distressing to hear a major hedge fund manager warn that the dollar will collapse in the next rescue. And with that, today's video comes to an end. If you haven't already, hit the like button below to show your love and support for the video. Also, hit the subscribe button. Also, subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button below and turn on the notification bell next to it to be the first to know when a new video is posted. Thank you for stopping by, and we hope to see you again on the next video.